Hello, welcome back to my book channel. My name is Sophie, and today we're going to be doing part 2 of a vlog that I've done before, where I'm continuing series that I'm in the middle of. So I'm looking at my Goodreads page on my computer right now, and I'm in the middle of 17 series. Now, in my defense, a lot of the books on this list I've read up to as far as I can, but the next book isn't out yet, you know, so technically it's not my fault that I haven't completed the series, but a lot of them are out and I just have not gotten around to them. So today we're going to be trying to cut that list shorter and make some progress on the series I'm in the middle of. One way I want to do that is continuing a series that I technically started in my last vlog, but I have read before, and that is the Infernal Devices series by Cassandra Clare. So this is book 2 in the series. This is Clockwork Prince. I read Clockwork Angel in my last reading vlog. I will link it down below, and also subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my vlogs that I post. But I absolutely loved the first book in this series. Whenever I read it last week, I gave it 5 stars, the same rating that I gave it whenever I was like 13 reading it for the first time. So this is a reread of the series, but I do still want to complete it, which is why I'm going to pick up this book today. Haven't started it yet, but I'm just so excited about it. This world is so amazing. Like, it's easy to jump into. I love the characters. It has a little bit of that nostalgia factor because I've read the series before. And also, like, the font is rather big on the page, and there's only like 500 pages in here. So it looks pretty chunky, but like there's also a lot of bonus content. All that to say, it's not going to take too much work for me to complete this. As far as any other books I want to read in this vlog, I'm looking at the list. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be interested in. I've been reading a lot of fantasy in the past week and a half. That was what my last vlog was about. And before that, I was reading no fantasy for like a month and a half. So I'm kind of getting back into my fantasy grind. I do have Crooked Kingdom, and I finished Six of Crows over a month ago, so maybe I should jump back into something else by Leigh Bardugo. I did just read The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo also in my last vlog, so I am kind of used to her writing style at the minute. I love the way that she writes. What else is on this list? There's Crescent City 3, Glow of the Everflame, For the Throne, which is the sequel to For the Wolf, which I read in September and gave 5 stars. I don't know, we'll have to see what I'm feeling. I will let you guys know when I have more reading updates. I do want to talk about crochet though. Here's the progress that I've made. As you can see, there are more pink flowers. There's definitely some darker pinks that I've added in. The idea is it's going to be like a branch of flowers kind of coming across the side of the fabric, but yeah, I'm really happy with it. I think it looks really good, especially far away. Like, you know, you kind of hold it away from yourself and kind of blur your eyes. I think it looks really awesome. It's just a nice calming activity to do when I'm like watching TV at night, just kind of listen to The Office and then do some sewing. So I hope you guys are having a great day wherever you are, and I will let you guys know when I get further into this book. Hey. Okay, so it is currently December 2nd. So it's been like over a week, I think, since I've last filmed for this video. In my defense, it was Thanksgiving break, okay? So I went on vacation, I hung out with my family. I did not want to be making content. I went on vacation and I turned off my brain. So I was not recording, and I was also on the most part not reading. But it is currently Monday. I just got back from break yesterday, so we had classes today. Getting back in the swing of things, and I found out that Clockwork Prince has a free with premium audiobook on Spotify. So I'm taking advantage of that I have. So I'm actually, I think, 65 of the way through this book. I've read this much. I only have a little bit left. Well, I mean, a good chunk left, but I literally got from the 30% to the 65% in the past like 24 hours by, number 1, reading in the car during the road trip back from my grandparents' house, and number 2, listening to the audiobook during the day today and yesterday night. So I've definitely been making some progress, but over the course of a week, I got like maybe 30 pages in this book. So unfortunately, it's not going as well. Okay, it is now, but it wasn't going as well for a while. So I'm not really getting the 5-star feelings as I was for book 1 because I took such a long, slow time getting into this book. I don't think it's the book's fault. I think it's mostly my fault, but I do think that to some extent there are just a little bit of like boring stuff that happens in the beginning. Like the middle part, interesting. I'm really hooked in at this point. Okay, guys, I want to know what happens next, because at this point I think I've forgotten what I read originally when I was 13. I've gotten past the point of remembering everything, and I'm kind of just like waiting in suspense, like I'm reading it for the first time. However, because like I said, of that little break or that slow start, I'm just kind of feeling kind of mid about the beginning of this book. And I also am kind of realizing that this book is a little bit repetitive. Like, for example, we know that this book is a love triangle, right, between our main character Jem and main character Will, and they both love Tessa, and which one is Tessa going to choose, right? So I think that a little bit of her inner dialogue about like her moments with each of them, because she does have individual romantic moments with each of them individually at separate points in the book, as most love triangles are. This isn't a spoiler, like, come on now. So whenever she thinks about it in her head, she'll like think about it during the moment, she'll think about it that night, she'll think about it in the morning at breakfast, and then she'll finally talk to them about it. And like, we're hearing the same thoughts over and over, and part of me is like, do I get it, Tessa, because I've read it before, or am I like, okay, we get it because it's being repetitive? And I think it is a little bit on the repetitive side. That being said, I don't think that the book is like too long, or I don't think it drags out too long necessarily. I think that the plot is moving forward for sure. I just think that sometimes the thoughts of the characters can be cut down a little bit and we can just get going into the next, part of the scene, if that makes sense. But that's just a minor picky issue. Overall, I am still really enjoying this, and I cannot say much about what was happening with the plot because it's kind of a spoiler for book one, but I will say that we are trying to catch the evil guy, obviously, and everything's very like up in a mystery right now as to who Tessa is, what the Clave needs to do next. There are issues between the characters. We are learning a lot more about Will's backstory in this book. We are learning more about Jem's situation. Everything is just developing in this like sophomore book in the series, and of course it will climax in the third book. So I am almost done with this book. Like I said, 65%. We're really flying through with the help of that audiobook. Thank the Lord for audiobooks. Yeah, it's getting much better than it was at the beginning, and I just wanted to pop in and update that because I haven't talked to you guys for a week and a half. I gotta go to class, so talk to you guys later. I feel like every single angle for this vlog has been like this side of my room, but I unfortunately don't have time to set up a tripod and like go up on my bed because I'm trying to do this clip before my roommate gets back. So we're trying to speed through a little bit, but against all odds, it's a little crazy, but I actually finished Clockwork Prince last night. Like I said, I was at the 30% mark on Sunday after spending a week trying to inch through this book. And then with the help of that lovely audiobook, I got to the end and I finished this last night. Now I will say that the font in this book is rather large, so it's easy to get through, and also the writing style is very YA. It's not like dumbed down per se, but it's just, it's quick and easy to get through, so I really enjoy that about this series. It's not like a super hard read, but that being said, it was great to fly through, and overall I gave this, drumroll please, 4.5 stars. Now unfortunately this was not the 5-star feeling that I wanted, nor that I got from book one. I feel like two things are the issue. Number one, like I said yesterday, it's kind of a me issue. Because I was inching so slowly through the beginning of this book, I didn't really get to treasure it as much as I wanted to, and I never really got that exciting feeling for reading until I got to the 30-40% mark. But then also I do think that this book, it's not like a bad book by any means. It has good plot, it has good characters like I mentioned yesterday, but it is not the same as book one. I wouldn't say it's even a downgrade. I would just say that book one felt so whole, it felt so intriguing, it felt so perfected, and this, like I mentioned yesterday, had a little bit of repetition. There were a couple parts of the plot that were a little slower, or maybe not slower, but it's just less interesting. A lot of like researching people and finding out things, and it was just kind of But the romance in this book is more heightened than in book one, so it kind of lose some, win some whenever you move on to the sophomore book in a series. However, a 4.5 is not at all a bad rating. Like, that is such a good rating, and I really am enjoying this. Like I said in my first vlog where I read book one in this series, even years later after reading the series for the first time, it still holds up. Cassandra Clare really is a good writer. I know she gets a lot of hate for her like potential incest plot lines in Immortal Instruments, and I'm not gonna lie, they are definitely questionable for me too. But this trilogy, the prequel trilogy, really shows that she can write a good fantasy and she can really develop characters really well. She makes them very complex. They all have good things and they all have their failures about them. Even the main character Tessa, there were a couple scenes in this book that I was like, Tessa, that was not a good decision. You should not have done that. But I appreciate that the author puts those scenes in there where the main characters that we know and love make mistakes, because that's the realistic part of having a character. They're not going to all be perfect all the time. So anyway, all that to say, this was really good. I really enjoyed it. So check that one off the list. Now all I have to do is read book 3 to finish out that trilogy reread, which I'm super excited about, but I'm not going to read that one now. Actually, last night after I finished this book, I picked up a Christmas novella, and that has nothing to do with this video, but I just was really interested in reading it because I saw a video about it on Instagram and it, called out to me. So yeah, like I was saying, I will have to choose another book to move on for the rest of this vlog, but I do want to finish my little novella first. So I'm going to do that first, finish it up hopefully tonight because I'm already 60% of the way through, and then I can pick a new book to start the vlog with maybe tomorrow. So I will see you guys tomorrow. It is currently Thursday. I think I haven't talked to you guys in a day or two, and a lot of updates since then. So number one, I did my nails, kind of. I was gonna do like this design with like a light blue covering over the dark blue, so I did it on 4 of my nails, and then I realized that I just preferred the normal like royal blue. So if my nails look weird, it's because they are. I'm gonna fix them later, do just completely dark blue on all of them because I think it just looks nicer. That's why my hands look kind of funny right now. Ignore that. Second update, the book that I did decide to pick up to continue this vlog is, as you guys saw yesterday, Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. Now, I was really, and am still, really nervous about picking this up because I am in a mood to read right now, but I don't know if I'm in a mood to read like difficult books. Now, this isn't difficult, like it's not too hard to read, but there's a lot of content in what Leigh Bardugo writes, always. I've only read 2 of her books, but like I can say with surety that whenever she writes something, it is important, it is necessary, it is perfected to a T, and I want to put my entire effort into reading her work because I really just do like the way that she writes. However, I don't know if I'm 100% in the mood right now to read something complex and deep and also emotional because I've heard a lot about the ending of this book and how it absolutely wrecks people. So I was really intimidated to get into this, and I was thinking about maybe I should read something else, like a lighter contemporary romance, something fluffy, you know. All that to say, I'm conquering my fear. So I decided to pick this up nonetheless and try it. I'm currently 10%, actually almost 12% in. I got through part 1 yesterday, and I'm also listening on audiobooks, so I decided not to annotate this because, like I said, mental capacity, it's low right now. We're in final season, babe, okay? I'm not annotating because that requires me to completely physical read a book in order to like make all my notes and stuff. And although I do love the effect of an annotated book, at the moment I'm just trying to get through a story. So audiobook is doing the job for me. It was like $3 on Audible. It was a great deal. I'm rambling. Let's talk about the content of this book. So I read Six of Crows a couple of months ago, and I really loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I read all their backstories. I love their relationships, their nuances, and I love Kaz so much. Kaz is like the main character, and in the first little bit of this book, whenever we see him, I love that he is such a morally gray person. We say this a lot about like dark romances, how a main guy protagonist, like the love interest, is like always so morally gray, mob boss, kills people, but it's because of his childhood trauma and like he has layers, but I can fix him, like that kind of morally gray, which it's cringe, but I fall into that category sometimes, I will admit it. However, I think Cass in this book is morally gray in a completely different way. He's morally gray, like he does some dark dude, like, and you can tell he's almost like descending into insanity. I don't want to say what happens at the end of book 1 because obviously that would be a spoiler, but because of what happened at the end of book 1 and how we start book 2, he is frantic to achieve something, to accomplish something. I am too, trust, I want to know what happens, but he is going to lengths, like any length, to get what he wants, and that involves killing innocents, threatening a child that if she doesn't go back to bed and not tell her parents that she saw some random guy, aka Kaz, then he would slit the throats of her entire family, including her dogs. Like, crazy thing to say to a child. And one of the other characters says that to him too in the book, like, you are absolutely insane. And then Kaz was like, I was merciful because I didn't just kill her on the spot, I let her live. And I'm like, ooh dude, that's the thing that a villain would say. But I love it. Like, okay, is it good? No. But I love when an author is willing to take a main character and put him or her through the ringer. Like, give us those flaws. Show us how, like, broken inside this person is. Because obviously no one is perfect and we need to see the dark side of characters. And this is going to an extreme extent with him. And I really like the concept of him, like, descending into insanity almost. I'm sure he's going to come back. I'm sure everything will be fine at the end. I'm sure he will redeem himself and fix his wrongs and things like that. And all the characters will be able to mend their relationships and things. But it's a process of, like, you have to go low to go high again, you know? Really good. His character, phenomenal. And like I said, Leigh Bardugo's writing, always a banger. So this is good. It's just requiring me to work through it and like spend the mental energy to like put time and effort into, you know, absorbing this story. That's where we are at now. Another one that I was debating picking up instead of Crooked Kingdom is Six Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. And if I still have time by the end of this vlog, I may pick it up. We'll have to see what I'm feeling because I am a mood reader at heart. But that's where I'm standing right now. So I think I've been yapping for like 12 minutes. I will update you guys when I'm further than like 10-12% of the way through Crooked Kingdom. This thing on my forehead is not pretty, but we're just gonna have to make it do. I was planning to film an update clip at 50% of the way through Crooked Kingdom, but I'm currently 80% of the way through. I just have not been able to stop reading. I've been listening to the audiobook, which is really, really good because they have a cast, so a new actor plays each character, so there's like a different voice for every chapter. And some of them are really good. Like, for example, there was one part where a character chuckled and the voice actor actually chuckled and like laughed in the audiobook. So really incredible audiobook, but it's been making me fly through this, and I'm just preparing myself for all the emotions because I know that this book has a not a terrible ending, but like an emotional ending. Everyone talks about how they sob in this book, and I'm just mentally preparing myself for that moment. So we'll just kind of see what happens. The plot in this is just so incredible. Like, Leigh Bardugo's mind is, I've said this before and I'll say it again, it's so amazing. Every single chapter, it's either they're in the middle of doing a plan, they just got out of a plan, or they're planning the next plan. Like, there's always some kind of like miniature step that they have to do to get to their final goal. Like, for each project, you might say, like, there are 8 different chapters, you get everyone's point of view doing different things, and they all come back together, regroup, start again. So it's a lot of like that kind of structure, but it's just amazing how Leigh Bardugo weaves in backstory and relationship and character flaws, like all within the plot. The one thing that I wish I got a little more of in this book is a little bit more romance, and I know that's really not her intention, so it's kind of a me problem because not all authors go out to write romance in their books. I understand that. That's such a personal thing. I think that if her intention is not to add much romance in here, that's totally her opinion, her choice. There are small romances in this, but it's just like it's so tiny, it's so minor. And between Kaz and his love interest, that's where I need just a couple more crumbs. I don't think I'm gonna get them, unfortunately. It's just so hard because every one of these characters has such a backstory, such a history that like it's hard for them to open up and be vulnerable, and that's what the entire book is basically about, but it's just incredible. So again, almost done with this, waiting for that apparently devastating ending. As far as any other updates go, I wanted to show you guys, well, first of all, I fixed the nails that were like messed up in like my last talking clip, and I also got rings. I bought some rings from a Black Friday sale, so I have these two and then a little chain one over here. I just think like the rings make my hands look very dainty. I've always wanted to be a ring girl, but rings are like expensive. It's jewelry, right? And I want rings that are not going to tarnish, but I took advantage of that Black Friday sale from Every Jewels, and so I got a couple for like really, really cheap. Great sale. And then also, you guys saw me doing this yesterday as I was listening to the audiobook for Crooked Kingdom, but I've been working more on my crochet, or not crochet, cross-stitching, sorry. I talked about this in a previous vlog, but I've made a lot of progress so far. I think the branch is like almost done. They're like all the cherry blossoms coming down. If you look really, really close up, you can see like all the little details and stitches in there. I'm really proud of it. I've been working on this for a couple weeks now, and I'm glad it's like coming all together. And I think that after I finish this one, I might even start a different one, maybe, potentially. And then my last update I have for you guys is I actually started a 3rd book for this vlog. So I told you guys, I think in the last clip, that I was interested in starting 6 Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. This is book 1.5 in the Serpent and the Wings of Night series. It's a little less than 200-page novella in between Serpent and the Wings of Night and Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I read both of those in May. This follows our main character, Lilith, who, from my recollection, I don't remember her at all in the actual original duology, nor do I remember Vale, who is a vampire that she goes to ask help for. She needs blood to save a sickness in her town. Neither of them, I don't think, are characters in the books that I remember, but also, like, I read the books in May, so they could have been side characters that I just forgot about. I do really love the novella so far. It's interesting when people write novellas because it's in such a shorter time span, you have to approach things differently, because a great novella has the same character development, has the same plot and action, has the same feelings that you'd get for a full-length book, but it has to be given to you in a shorter time span, and so you have to get into the action really quickly. You have to develop people's emotions and have them go through the character arc faster than they would in a long-form book, obviously. So it's interesting to see the difference between Carissa Broadbent's writing in a thick fantasy novel versus like a quick little novella, but I think that she is really accomplishing it well. She really gets into the action quickly. We understand our characters with just a little bit of detail, and I think that it's a really, really well-written novella. So I'm enjoying it so far. I'm actually halfway through because it's only 187 pages, so I got like, I think 95 pages between last night and this morning, so I'm halfway done with that. Those are my updates, and I'm probably gonna try to finish this one sometime today, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. I was like 10 minutes late to class today because this morning I could not get out of bed. I was too busy trying to finish this book. I don't even know what my thoughts are. to be honest. I have spoilery thoughts, but I don't have many unspoilery thoughts that I haven't already mentioned in this video. As far as my final rating goes for this book, it is 4.5 stars. This is phenomenal work. Like the entire duology, I gave the first book 4.5. This is also 4.5. Leigh Bardugo's writing is like 10 out of 10 for me. I will say it and say it again and again in this vlog and other videos. When I write a book one day, want to write like her. This is my goal in life. I just think the characters so good. The plot honestly is what made this a 4.5 star for me. Is there amazing found family in this? Absolutely. But I think that above anything else, the plot, the mastermind crafting that Leigh Bardugo has our main character Kaz do in this book, it's incredible. It's phenomenal. I couldn't think that far ahead. She's always 10 steps ahead, and it's just honestly fantastic. So 4.5 stars. Like I said, I finished it this morning. I did not cry. I thought I was going to sob. I didn't cry, but I do think that the ending was definitely sad, and part of it was sad in like a happy way, part of it was sad in a sad way. I think it was a good way to end out the series, the 2-book series. And also, just to point out, I think duologies are the perfect length of series. I think trilogies can sometimes drag a story out for too long, and other long series sometimes don't need to be that long, but I think duologies are perfect. You get the perfect amount of time with your characters that you love. You get a full extension of the plot. You get a great cliffhanger at the end of book 1, but then 2 books and you're done. So I love that not only am I done with this entire book, which was a fantastic masterpiece, but I can also check it off my series I need to complete list and my winter TBR. So that's my first book off my winter TBR completed, and my second book, Six Scorched Roses, I'm halfway through right now. And I haven't continued any further in that book because I was too busy finishing this one, but I hopefully will finish that one today. I can update you guys tomorrow on my thoughts on that. But quickly, I do want to say a few spoilery thoughts about Crooked Kingdom. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, if you haven't read this book so far and you don't want to know any spoilery thoughts, skip to this timestamp that I'll put here somewhere on the screen. I'll give you a few more seconds to skip ahead. It won't be very long. I just have a couple things I want to mention, but they are definitely spoilers. So skip ahead. I'm giving you the time now. Okay. Spoilers start right now. The end of this book, number one, the plot with like pretend killing Kuwei and then he's actually alive and all that stuff, genius. When Inej in the end of her chapter was like, it's time to shoot Kuwei, I was like, hello? But it was a fake bullet, guys. Don't worry, we're all good. I honestly, if I could tell you what I was thinking the entire time, part of it was like things I've been hearing online that I thought were true, and part of it was just the way they've been developing these characters. But out of any crow that I thought was going to die at the end of this book, I thought it was going to be Wylan. I love Wylan. He's the youngest. He has a special place in my heart, and especially in this book we see so much of, even though he's been given so many troubles and so many challenges to overcome in his life, obviously with the reading thing, with his father, like there's so many things wrong with him, not wrong with him, goodness gracious, so many challenges that he's been given that he has to overcome. I think that would have been one of the most heartbreaking deaths would be to kill him off because of how much he's worked for where he is right now in the story. And I do think that Leigh Bardugo is the author who would take that risk and kill off a very lovable character. Not to say that the person who did end up dying, Matthias, is not lovable. I did really enjoy Matthias's character. I think that he is so lovable. He's just so genuine and a really, really great character. But I personally thought that we developed more of his character and his internal conflict in book 1. And so as far as like the characters that were of quote most importance, and that's like a very broad statement, but in this book I feel like he was on the lower end because the whole issue with the ice court where he's from was like the big part of book 1, right? So killing him off was a surprise to me because I thought that Wylan was going to die instead. And so because of that expectation, I feel like the scene wasn't as emotional for me. That's why I didn't cry, because I wasn't expecting it. But I do still feel obviously terrible for him, terrible for Nina. It's definitely still heartbreaking to lose a crow after everything they've been through. But I think that because I was expecting something else, it didn't hit as hard for me, but that's totally a personal issue. And I am glad that Wylan is still here. He has a fortune now. He's doing great, honestly. Jesper and Inej with her parents and Kaz, like, oh my god, I could use just a little bit more of their romance, but I get, again, that's not Leigh Bardugo's focus. And yeah, 4.5 stars. This is incredible. So now I'm going to go work on homework, read the end of Six Scorched Roses, and I'll update you guys tomorrow when I have finished that book as well. Depending on the lighting in this clip, this could be a new angle to shoot from, which is really nice, kind of more of a wide angle. But hello, good morning. Well, almost afternoon, it's 11 o'clock, but it is Tuesday. And last night I finished 6 Scorched Roses on my Kindle. Of course, it was a really short book. It was like 184 pages, so it didn't take me long to finish the book, but I wanted to give you guys... AC just turned on. Oh my goodness. Like I was saying, it didn't take me long to finish the book, but I wanted to give you guys my final thoughts. So I don't know if I explained the plot of this book yet in this vlog. Maybe I did, but basically we have our main character Lilith, who is trying to solve this like terrible plague that is happening in her town, and the AC is going to be really loud, which is really annoying. We're just going to push through. So sorry if you can hear that in the background. Yeah, so the plague is really interesting because it like turns people into dust almost. Her sister has the plague, and she always talks about having to sweep out dust from the house every single day, and it's like the dust of her skin. So it's like a really interesting concept. And she goes to see this vampire guy because she needs his blood to make the cure. And in return for taking his blood, she gives him 1 rose every time that she goes and sees him every month. And this is a quick novella, a quick romance. The guy's name is Vale. I thought it was really well done. Like I said a couple days ago, I think it's really impressive to put such a big story into such a small amount of pages. I don't think that this book needs to necessarily be lengthened. The plot kind of fit page length, if that makes sense, but I think that she talked about a lot of deep topics like life and death and forgiving people and their past and grief and giving up things for other people and trying to hide the love you have for other people in order to spare them heartbreak, like things like that, you know, really interesting topics I thought were handled really well in such a short amount of time. So I really enjoyed this novella, and I'm actually an idiot. I'm an idiot because I was talking earlier in this vlog, I didn't remember if the characters Vale and Lilith were in Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I was trying to remember off the top of my head if they were. Yeah, they were, for sure. Downloaded Ashes and the Star-Cursed King off Kindle Unlimited, just kind of flipped through it on my Kindle after I finished the novella last night, because the novella takes place in between the 2 first books, so I guess it makes sense you probably should read them in order. For some reason in my head, I thought it was okay to read the novella after book 2, but turns out that Vale and Lilith were actually very important characters in book 2, and I'm remembering now that I'm like seeing them in the page. I remember thinking when I was reading Ashes and the Star-Cursed King back in May, I was like, who are these people? I forget about them in book 1. Like, I was thinking it was a me problem, that maybe they were introduced in book 1. They weren't. They were introduced in the novella that I just didn't read. And so that would have been great context, I think, to read going into Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. It's not like killing me to not have read it now, but I think that definitely if you haven't read the series before, read it in order of Serpent and the Wings of Night, then the novella, and then Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, because that'll make the characters seem a lot more sense to you. You get their backstory more, you get to understand their characters a little bit more. But it was really cool, I think, that they were in that book, because it just adds so much to their story post their romance, like they're now together, but you get to see how they impact war and everything going on in book 2. So it was really cool, I think. That's definitely a me problem for not reading it in order. But that being said, the first part of this series is done, which I'm really excited about. Like I said, her book about Misha, I think, just came out, so technically there is more to read, and we're just going to continue the series. But I'm really happy with this vlog today. We've read a lot of books, and I'm really proud of us. So just to kind of recap on everything that we've read, first I finished Clockwork Prince, which is the second book in the Infernal Devices series by Cassandra Clare. This was a reread for me from years ago, and I gave this book 4.5 stars, so I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend if you want historical fantasy with a great love triangle and amazing characters. Then I finished Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second book in the Six of Crows duology, so I finally completed this series, which is fantastic. I loved this book, also gave it 4.5 stars. The plot was amazing, characters were great, and I just love Leigh's writing, as I've said a million times before. And then finally I read 6 Scorched Roses, which I gave 4 stars. I don't know if I said that, but this was a 4-star book for me. Really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great novella, and I'm very excited to move on with Carissa Broadbent's other work. So this is an incredibly successful vlog, 2 4.5 stars and a 4 star, so I cannot complain at all. I recommend everything that I read in this video if you want to add some of it to your TBR. And if you want to see more of these completing series vlogs, I post book videos every single Thursday, so subscribe so you won't miss the next one. Hope you guys have an amazing week, and if you want to watch my most recent video, which I think was my end of year book tag, it's linked over here on the screen.